Hello, my friends, and welcome to Retro Dogfight, the podcast where old guys talk old sims. Flight sims, that is, not the old Maxis game. Well, not old, it's still going, I guess. Flight sims. I am your co-host, Brian, and joining me as always is your co-host, Chase.
Hello.
And your co-host, Denny.
Hi there. Not going to be flying Simcopter today.
Oh, man. I could talk for hours about Simcopter, you guys. Side note, I love Simcopter so much. Seriously, I love Simcopter. Anyway, we're here today to talk about, we're kind of going in chronological order, but we're also kind of jumping around. And today we're going to talk about the Air Warrior series. Now, my friends, when I mentioned talking about the Air Warrior series, beloved co-host Chase, I'm going to say, got giddy. You got giddy, man. You really did. So Chase, if you wouldn't mind, would you explain what exactly the Air Warrior series is?
Sure. Let's do some old man casting back stuff here. For the like one or two kids roped into listening this. Once upon a time, we did not have the internet. We dialed out using our phones to small servers run by our friends who also had stuff up. Those were BBSs, right? And then some corporations time shared out their networks. And again, you dialed into them. And one of them was Genie, all right? Genie was big in the 80s along with CompuServe. There a couple of big corporate systems that they time shared out their computers for a little extra money, and they were intended for more business purposes. But after a while, they started adding games to them, and one of the games they added was a big multiplayer game called Air Warrior. And it's what it says on the tin. It was a before EverQuest, before Meridian 59, before anything else. That's where the multiplayer games were. You dialed into these huge servers, and they had games for you. And Air Warrior was one of them. So, it was a 3D 3D World War II flight sim. One of the things I do have to mention here, just kind of as a basis of the discussion, is this was not a free service.
No, it was not.
Nor was this an AOL disc get 100 hours free. Oh. This was you dialed in during peak hours, where East Coast hours, where the company's computers were busy. You paid through the nose, people. You paid like what, $13 an hour, I believe.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, it was during prime time. It would go down late at night.
Yeah, and it would go down to like $6 an hour late at night. And so keep those in mind when I tell you, at the time that I was playing this, I was fresh out of the service, so I was just beginning my civilian career. I was making minimum wage, which was roughly a little over $8 an hour. Keep that in mind.
And heaven help you if you had to pay for long distance as well.
I did not.
Service.
Right. And so let's, if
we're getting competitive about spending on this, I discovered it on the Amiga when I was in college in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, where Genie was a long distance call.
Oh, damn. You were paying LD and
it's like $15 an hour. Like a good night of mission would cost $40.
Quick side note. I wasn't using Genie. I was using the Radio Shack / Tandy service PC Link. And it was a California number, and I was dialing in from Pennsylvania. And on top of the service bill, I ran up a $600 long distance bill just to dial into PC Link and chat with people. I didn't even play the games. I was just chatting with people.
Yes. Yeah. And let's also keep in mind too that the boards for Air Warrior were also on CompuServe. So yes, I get you. Right. It was, playing a ton, spending a ton of money playing it, and then spending a ton of money just posting on the boards. So
which is a different service. Which is a different service,
right,
by the
way. Right. So there you go, folks. That was, your
late 80s dial-up joy.
Right, to mid 90s, before AOL and the internet kind of democratized the thing, and we'll get into that too.
So this was, I think, the first multiplayer air combat game, if I recall. It came out in 88. The first iteration was 88. It hit.
Okay, dude, you got to give it more credit than that. This was the first, like, massively multiplayer graphical action game ever.
Oh, ever, period.
Like MMOs owe everything to Air Warrior.
Oh,
Kesmai started out, they originally, their first Isle of Kesmai, I think it was Island of Kesmai, Isle of Kesmai, was basically like a MUD, multi-user dungeon on like Genie and stuff, and it was ASCII graphics. It was super primitive.
Right.
They made a lot of money on that. They poured everything into it, and so this not only introduced, like, massive multiplayer online playing, but it was the first like 3D world with other people.
What?
It was the first like multiplayer flight sim, like other than just modem to modem. It was like groundbreaking in every way.
I did not realize that.
Nothing on Kesmai.
Kesmai did a ton. I mean, there was multiplayer BattleTech. Because you got to consider most games when you dialed into somebody's BBS or dialed into Genie, it was all text mode stuff and
trade wars stuff like that.
Exactly. And MUDs were just big dungeons where you typed in go north with other people and fight monster typing commands like that but you just did it with lots of people. But Kesmai brought in actual game. So it's the granddaddy.
Wow. I didn't know. I did not know that. That's amazingly impressive.
And
wow.
Another thing too is just that things go around is we look at the Call of Duty players and blah 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 and all that and talk about stuff like that. Dude, all of those memes, all of that toxic masculinity, all of that. Yep. It was we were there 3,000 years ago, Gandalf. You got all of that from your daddies, right, and your granddaddies.
Wow. I did not realize.
But as far as like the toxic masculinity and stuff went, when you had people spending like $12 plus an hour to play the game, there was a lot less like screwing around with people and just being online jerks. There was some role playing going on with this stuff. Although you had to type your messages to people and stuff.
Yeah, you weren't talking to people; you were typing in your messages. But that's a good point too. Is that that did provide a kid filter. Being the younger 20-something, while I was playing it in 96 and 97, I was one of the younger people. And you honestly had a lot of quote unquote professionals playing the game. So guys who had gone to college and older people. So there was plenty of toxic trash talk, but it was more about skill than, some 12-year-old dropping the N-bomb and the F-bombs just, to be super edgy. But there was definitely the basketball court kind of trash talking going on there. So I should say trash typing. Well, So as you were saying, Brian, that it started in 88, and the version, as you can tell, as I just said, I didn't start until 96. So it was Air Warrior SVGA. I kind of caught the tail end of the phenomenon. I got hooked in late. By that time, the community was very mature in terms of, it was very set in its ways. The tribes had been set up in there, and it was a joy to jump in, especially after, playing just the single player stuff over so many years. And the reason I have such good and bad memories about it, the good memories are just that I learned so much. Right. That opened up the world of, point nose at thing and shoot. in terms of air combat. With other players there, and that many players, and being able to join up with a squadron, a virtual squadron and whatnot, and actually do things like training. And that's what it's funny. Throughout the many years since then, I see like people forming like virtual like battalions in Arma and stuff like that. And I'm like, dude, we had all of that. We patterned ourselves after, squadrons. You were in this wing, and you had this rank, and so on and so forth. And this was your place when in the team events and flew. But that was the best ACM and BFM school possible. That's what got me like reading, Art of the Kill, and air combat maneuvers, and thinking about that. There's nothing like being, having some jerk dish you over, like, do you even lead turn? And it's like, what's a lead turn? What's flying in lag? So yeah, it was a school that honestly, for the low price of pretty much my entire paycheck, it taught me so much and really got me fired up, I would say, for the next 5 years. And at that point, I was just I didn't play it in there. I just kind of dabbled in Sims. It was cool playing, U.S. Navy fighters and the various things there. But playing Air Warrior really solidified me into getting into flight sims, and that's it was then that I started jumping onto the news groups and eventually writing about the news groups and doing reviews and stuff like that. So yeah. Air Warrior was the awakening of the flight sim nerd in me.
Wow, that's wonderful.
I'm surprised you didn't play back in the Amiga days.
When you're on an A500, you desperately want to be a flight simmer, but it was Red Baron, playing Red Baron on an unexpanded Amiga. That was just the last straw for me. I would 2-3 frames per second. I'm like, I got to get off this freaking thing, and get to a PC because my buddy, I was still in the service. So I had roommates. My roommate was over there rocking a 386. And I'm like, I gotta have one of those,
Yeah. It came out on the Amiga before DOS. Yeah. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. You came on SVGA Air Warrior, was it?
Yeah. I came on. Yeah. So the next iteration.
Yeah, you had the mature version. So the version I never played a lot on the Amiga because it literally was like $15 an hour when you had long distance in 1988 money. So I would let myself play like 2 hours a month. But it was cool enough that even on my college student budget, I would find the $30 to play a couple times. But my God, the Amiga version in '88, I went back and looked at it to remind myself it was as bad as I remembered. And it was before they added the textures. There were like some bitmap cockpits that didn't have working instruments.
Oh no,
you didn't use those because they just got in the way. But like if you flew a different plane, the P-51 had a long rectangular polygon in front of you. If you flew a B-17, it was kind of an offset polygon to make it look like you're sitting on the side seat. The Corsair had a slightly wider one than the P-50. There was the graphics were so primitive.
Well, I'll tell you what, flying the
multiplayer experience.
Well, flying the SVGA version for Air Warrior 1 was kind of weird because when I started flying, I'm like, is that the wing? Because I'm flying forward. I'm like, what is that it's supposed to be the nose. We're like, is that the wing? It was weird. It was like, what is this? What's going on? Am I flying straight or am I looking sideways? What is going on? What is happening?
One of the, I think one of the things that you have to focus on is that while a lot of other sims, they were pushing graphics hard, never through its versions did Air Warrior. That was not its top priority. This was the first, other than I would say like Falcon 3. this was the first of the hardcore rivet counter sims. Even though, when you play, you play it, you have a very limited selection of flight surfaces, so you're not tweaking your radio or your trim or your mixture. But I'm talking in terms of hardcore. It's like, as far as they understood it, and were able to document it and implement it, the flight models were as accurate as possible. And where I say this was, where I got my eyes opened as to what air combat actually was, there was actually a couple of arenas you could fly in, and folks who play War Thunder may recognize this trope, a relaxed realism and then the full-on realism. Relaxed realism was pretty much, it was still pretty, you were not, even in a plane like the Zeke or the Spitfire, you were still bleeding energy when you did tight turns, things like that. But, it opened my eyes as to what was really going on when I remember first times jumping into the realistic, and I'm playing a P-51, also known then as the Run Stang. Because if you got into trouble, you just ran away from it, and that was perfectly valid. That was perfectly valid. It was one of in its regime, it was one of the fastest planes in the game. But I'm like pulling my nose up, right? I'm getting up ahead of steam. I'm pulling, and the stall alarm's going off, and I'm going, why is the stall alarm going off? Why is my plane shaking and stalling? I have plenty of speed, and that in itself, that taught me what angle of attack was. Right. That you simply can't pull your nose up out of your direction of travel, the direction that the wind is going over your wings, because it's like you'll stall. It's an accelerated stall. I learned about those, and no other sim I had ever played before, none of them had mapped an accelerated stall. And it was, that was what they always focused on. So, and we'll all probably talk about this, but these sims were ugly. They were ugly up to Air Warrior 3. They were ugly. The UI was antiquated and ugly. You had the 3-mode UI where it was like a full screen with no cockpit. Scaled down screen with the ugly cockpit.
I'll tell you what,
where
that
you
didn't
can
work.
type. And
that full screen thing didn't work. It didn't work.
Oh, it's because you had no idea what was going on. And that was like, if you read the docs, it's like mastering this screen is where you'll be. Well, it's like bullshit. Your essay is, your essay is awful, but it's between that or really ugly digitized cockpit.
If I could have a side note, I went. Just a side note. My first World War II sim was 1942 Pacific Air War. That's why it's still one of my favorites. And that had that amazing padlock view, Yeah. And I basically went from that to this.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons I bounced off this hard, because this is
folks.
Terrible situational awareness.
You know what? Where it worked really well is with my CH flight stick, which had a hat, right? It had a hat, and this was rare, and this was a DOS stick. So I programmed that hat so it did the 4 views that you had, right? Which is like you did not have a 45-degree left or right, or you just had forward, starboard, port, and rear. It's like that's it, no padlock. But it also had a 45-degree view toggle. So I had a button that I'd press along on my throttle, right? Because you can't while you're doing, your thumb was busy on your stick. So on my throttle, I had a button I'd press, my CH throttle, that would toggle the 45-degree view, and I got really good at that. So you had to have a stick and play the piccolo kind of to have any kind of decent situational awareness. But you had no smooth scrolling, no padlock to target view, no external. You were in your cockpit, right? The hardcore.
True. That's true.
But talking about trash talking, the Air Warrior guys in those days used to diss people who flew other sims because they felt like a padlock view was a cheat.
Really?
Turning your head is a little easier than hitting your numeric keypad in real life. I mean, the Air Warrior guys wanted everything to be way harder than it was in real life.
They were the first of the true hardcore rivet counters. I mean, the rivet counter community started a little bit with games like Fighter Duel, which were ultra niche.
Oh, Fighter Duel, jeez, that game.
That was Fighter Duel. I remember playing that on the Amiga with a BBS buddy who was far and above. He had the analog joystick serial port converter.
Oh wow!
No modem stuff set up so that you could do, because you couldn't do networking. It had to be done over the parallel or the serial port as well. So you could have somebody drop over with their Amiga and play Fighter Duel. But yeah, you had that. Then you had, I would say, Falcon 3 was the next rivet counter sim. Right,
but that had underneath amazing padlock view.
Falcon it did. But it had a ton of switchology.
Yeah,
right. It had, and that was, so you had the switchology guys happy there. But as far as the purists, the flight model purists, and the BFM purists, and the true fighter pilot wannabes were on Air Warrior.
Really? Oh, wow.
Yeah, they were. That was where they and that's, and I, like I said, I caught the tail end of it and got thoroughly indoctrinated, with that stuff for a while.
Yeah, we should probably step back and just do a kind of a basic description of the game for people who haven't played it.
Yeah, so I only played these in single player. Well, these ones, because and I have to say, there was one thing I was very impressed with, was the AI. Even SVGA Air Warrior kicked my lily white butt all over the sky. My God. Even in recruit mode, I was getting shellacked all over the sky. It was very impressive. Like, I wasn't even mad. I was like, wow. Like, damn. Like, yeah, okay. I deserved it.
So for people who haven't flown this, the Air Warrior was, when it started out, they didn't even define countries.
A, B, and C, baby.
A, B, and C. Hey, I was a B guy.
Is?
The Barneys.
What that is. I didn't know what that meant. I was like, why are there three colors? What does this mean? I don't understand.
B were the Barneys. They were the purple.
Oh, okay.
Yep. And you had a selection of World War II planes, and they were not separated. Like, you didn't have the people flying Japanese planes for one country and German for another. Like, you'd have people going up together with a Messerschmitt next to a P-51 next to a Corsair. They had bombers. There were B-26s and B-17s and some of the Japanese bombers. But it was all, originally it just was a big free for all. There was like no missions, no organization. Then as time went on, the community built up, and they would have nights where they would set up scenarios, but you literally logged on and there was somebody typing out what the plan for the night was.
Right.
or you went up to the Air Warrior forum on Genie and read the message.
And it's like, there would be like, okay, everybody cap, base such and such in Sealand. And Volchum. Volchum. Oh my God.
Okay, what is that?
So, yeah.
What is that? What is Volchum?
Volching is the exact equivalent to spawn camping. Where you vulture them. You head over to their base. You and anybody who tries to take off, you vulch them. So yeah, and it's a valid tactic, but it was either frowned upon or it's like I'm not sure if there was a base that was vulture proof or just heavy AA or whatever, but yeah, it was spawn camping. So we had our old thing back in the day, just like the Victorians had their their own speech. But so yeah, but then you said, right, you had A, B, and C. You joined one of these countries. It was all a bunch of flat islands with the occasional polygonal mountain. Bases where you took off from. AA guns around the base that could be manned. And remember, doing all of this, you were not clicking buttons to do it. You were typing in things, right? You were typing in shorthand commands that you had to remember to do things. You would get like calls. It's like such and such base is under attack. We need people on the AA guns. Things like that. So yeah. I mean, very primitive. The only really mission was, go up and kill guys, and if you want to, go kill their base. That was basically it.
Yeah,
we made our own fun.
When did they?
Yeah, the missions and offline mode and all that came. I think
much later.
Primitive missions and like some basic practice missions. I think in SVGA, weren't there?
Yeah. I remember those.
Yeah, that's what I was playing in SVGA. There's about a dozen or so of them, and they were pretty entertaining. I have to admit, I played several of them, and I had fun. And again, I got shot down in pretty much all of them. And again, I wasn't mad every time because, like, wow, that's really impressive. I spent most of my time with these in Air Warrior 3 because I thought it was a little weird that Air Warrior 2 came out in the beginning of 97 with no 3D acceleration. And then at the end of 97, Air Warrior 3 came out with 3D acceleration and all of Air Warrior 2's content. I thought that was a little strange.
They were actually. I went back and reread because I remembered doing an interview with the Kesmai guys about Air Warrior 3 before it came out, because that one stuck with me because I got into such a great conversation with them about the AI improvements that they were making for Air Warrior 3.
Okay.
But yeah, so I found my old notes and Air Warrior 2 actually hit in 96. I think the boxes may not have hit stores till 97, but it was available online before the box version.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Hit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You could actually play. You could actually play both 2 and 3 on the online services before you could go buy the iMagic versions that appeared in stores. But it was interesting though. But yeah, Air Warrior 2 did not do great because it was so dated graphically. The missions were kind of fun, and the AI was challenging, but it was dumb. You would have you'd get into a turn fight with an AI P40. Just call it out. Like they didn't fly like so I found my old interview and the conversation I was having with him was about how much effort they had put into making the AI pilots fly the various planes using the techniques that were appropriate to whether it was a boom and zoom fighter or a turn fighter, that sort of thing, like having them attack bombers at off angles. And to this day, I think Air Warrior 3 might have some of the most realistic behaving AI that ever happened.
Yeah, I played a lot of the missions, and for folks, Air Warrior 3 comes with just a freaking truckload of content. Like most of it is in the World War II era, but it also has some World War I and Korea era stuff as well. But most of it's World War II era. But like, I kind of just sat back and watched the AI do its thing most of the time before it shot me down. But,
I want to point out too that when I delving into Air Warrior 3, like its help files and whatnot, there is an absolute school inside there on all of the planes about. I mean, these people were serious. You read these introductions. It was not just a bland, such and such speed at sea level for each of the planes. It was how you fought it and how it compared to other planes. It's like, this one has, better instantaneous turn than the P-51, but, a less sustain rate. So you're going to want to, you've got one turn to do it. It was like a decade of player experience on each of these planes, and I'm reading it going back going, this is the stuff right here.
I just discovered those help files yesterday, and I was reading through them like, holy crap, this is an encyclopedia. This is a damned encyclopedia. Like folks, once these hit Steam, you really should get at least Air Warrior 3. You don't bother with Air Warrior 2. At least buy Air Warrior 3. I don't know how they're going to get it running on Steam. I had to use 86 bucks to get this running. I don't know how they're going to get this running on Steam. But yeah, there's just a truckload of content here, and it's a lot of good content. They have like a dozen training missions, which were all pretty good training missions, and a lot of good like actual missions and campaigns, many campaigns. And there's a lot of good single player content here, which I was very surprised. That's why I bought it back in the day. Because on the box it said like 450. I'm like, that sounds like something I'd want to play. And then I tried to play it. I'm like, and then I tried to play it back in the day. I'm like, I suck at this. And then I went back to 1942. But
yeah, it taught you where you were at. It was the great filter. In terms of what kind of a player, and how skillful you were.
Actually,
I
did. Go ahead, sorry.
I got to say, playing 2 and 3 was, I barely remember this place moment. There's my second Lord of the Rings drop. Because after SVGA Air Warrior, I hopped over to Warbirds. And so did most of the community.
And it says something that Warbirds is the one that still is going today.
Yeah, and there's a bunch of reasons for that, which we'll get into it when we cover it. But as far as things like if you wanted to troll a side, right? If you let's say the Beelanders wanted to troll C, your troll moves were what we would call Death Stars. This is just a random piece of history I remember. We called them Death Stars, and you'd get all your squaddies who were online, and saying you were mounting up a Death Star, and you loaded up a B-25, right, a bomber, but every one of the gun positions could be manned by humans.
Oh wow!
And that is why it was called a Death Star. And it was you would basically head out for wherever, and whoever was flying it would fly it like a damn fighter, and you had like 5 people in there shooting guns at enemies. And as far as I had more fun in things like Death Stars than I did as solo flying, because it was you were just cracking up most of the time. Basically, everybody on the airplane was half drunk, calling out over the general channel, the general freak, hey, we're coming, basically, trolling and calling out everybody, and you would get just. And a lot of the time the other sides would treat it like the joke it was. Mm-hmm. So they wouldn't use the right tactics to try to take you down. They just barrel straight in. Everybody was just in a death or glory mood when a Death Star went up, until you got the one guy who would get pissed off and actually start taking it seriously. Oh. So I still remember going up with Death Stars with just having a great old time. Yeah, racking up the kills, and then finally somebody would drill you, and there'd be a bunch of parachutes over Sealand or whatever.
Yeah, the more I played this, the more I could see. Even though I was enjoying the single player stuff, I could see that. The soul of it was gone without the other people there, which was sad, because I actually won a single player mission yesterday, and it felt really satisfying. It felt really, really satisfying, given how challenging this game is. Air Warrior 3.
Yeah, and the campaign was interesting too with those missions, because they're scripted missions.
Yeah.
And at some point we have to do a special episode just arguing scripted versus dynamic campagns, because
that's a good idea. That's a good idea.
But the cool thing is that there were victory levels in the missions,
right?
And so. As the campaign went on, your success did affect which missions you would get next.
So like a branching.
Yeah. So it wasn't just purely linear, which is a good way to handle scripting.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. If you're going to do that, then just kind of the old Wing Commander style kind of thing. If you lose here, you go to mission here and whatnot. But but as far, God, going back to it is just like I just flying around kind of in the single player. I'm just like, there's nothing here anymore. It's like, it's like, I don't know, going like to your old high school, like when at your age you are now. It's like, there's nothing. There's memories here of good times, but most of those people, a lot of them are gone, and we all went on to our own lives and things like that. That's how, kind of that closeness was there. You were talking to these people off the game. So, when that whole EverQuest, World of Warcraft thing, people talking about, their sense of community and often a sense of addiction. I mean, you got to be addicted to something when you're making $8 an hour and you're basically spending all that money, on a flight sim. And so that is kind of scary. That was like my experience with, massive multiplayer addiction, which, I eventually bailed out of, but when I'm like just nodding my head, a few years later when I'm hearing people talking about Evercrack and World of Warcraft and cat ass and those things, and being just totally addicted to it. I'm like, yep, been there, and literally got the t-shirt for that. So that's,
you're safe now because you can't play this online anymore.
Right. You can't. And I am past the days of that, that multiplayer, whole thing is, we're spoiled for choice in the kind of multiplayer. If I want to fire up, have an absolute, wonderful experience, just fire up VR with War Thunder if you want that kind of just go out and shoot things. But yeah, that's I have never been into I got my fill of multiplayer, the community and getting into it is that much with that.
I was impressed with the AI banter. Excuse me. I thought that the AI did a decent job of doing call outs and
it was kind of hilarious how they had the commentary that looked like it was coming from online players.
I thought that was kind of neat. I felt like they did a decent job of trying to emulate the online experience as much as they could with in the solo experience.
Although it's interesting because that would mostly appeal to the people who played it online, but the offline stuff, like just that basic gameplay mode, didn't appeal to the people who played it online.
Right. Yeah.
So it was definitely a product of its time and audience.
Yeah. So I was looking back. I did the preview on this game for CGW. The actual review, because I didn't want to play 450 missions. I assigned to one of my really great writers, John Nolan. John actually owned a Vultee BT-13 trainer.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
oh, wow. Nice.
So he knew his shit. They called it the Vultee vibrator because it was such a shaky plane. World War II era. It basically looked like a T6 but with fixed gear. So he flew one of those, and he ended up giving it a 3.5 star rating. He definitely appreciated the AI. He kind of dissed on the flight model, saying that it just wasn't that realistic anymore at the time it was. But there was something that I had forgotten, which was on novice to make novice mode work for newbie players. Not only simplified the flight model and turned off things like accelerated stalls and spins, it flew at half speed.
Yeah,
by default.
What? Yeah, that was relaxed real. Yeah, that was the carry forward from relaxed realism. So until then, that was another introduction. If I can cut in here, in that all of the sims that I had played and everybody had played was like, let's take U.S. Navy fighters. All of the aircraft models were expanded; they were made bigger, and the actual speeds were slowed down. And every sim was like that. You could do that in Falcon 3 too. You could make the models, it helped for visibility, but if you played if you played Air Warrior full realism and then went back and played like Aces Over the Pacific, right? You felt like you were playing in slow motion in Aces Over the Pacific, because in the realistic Air Warrior, the models were original scale. So often your fights were, you just had something zipping right by you, right? And as opposed to the kind of the floaty feel that you kind of had with earlier Sims. Yeah, that was another introduction. But you brought up an important point there, Denny, that the relaxed realism was half speed. So yeah.
Yeah, he had a little more time to do everything. But yeah, so he gave it 3.5 stars. Generally like that. His biggest complaint, and boy, I saw this when I was looking back at it, due to the resolutions. Air Warrior 3 with a 3D card was a completely different sim than the earlier versions. It doesn't look good by today's standards, but it was pretty awesome at the time with its textured planes and actual mountains instead of polygons and stuff. But we were if you had a high res monitor, you were maybe 800 by 600 resolution, and his complaint was that they tried to model the distance challenge of like spotting a plane far away, that it was so limited by the resolution that you couldn't like see if you're coming up on a B-17, you should have been, he cites, you should be able to see its vertical stabilizer at 2,500 to 3,000 yards. And you actually couldn't make out anything beyond pixels until you were at like 1,500 yards, and more like 1,000 for smaller planes. So he felt like this was way harder than real BFM, because the planes are just too tiny.
Yeah.
Not an unfair.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. The visibility, the visibility issue is something that even modern Sims struggle with.
Yeah.
If you go into DCS threads, they have been struggling their entire development time to come up with a way to, and even with the higher res, particularly in VR, where planes just basically disappear.
Oh, really?
At a certain distance. And a certain viewing angle. But yeah, I think during our chat during the on the board, Brian, we had this is the black dot sim. Never has any sim been filled with so many black dots.
I'm playing and I'm playing. They're like, tally ho, 12 o'clock low. I'm like, oh god, there's like 18 black dots down there. Look at that. Look at all those black dots.
Yeah, and at least when you're playing multiplayer, everyone was stuck with the same thing.
Yeah.
So it didn't give anyone an advantage. But when you're trying to fly these historical missions, it's a lot harder when you can't tell what you're engaging with. And
plus, the sim had a very unique way of its cheat, which was not present in the full realism. Labels, we're all familiar with labels, and labels are, I am not anti-label because my eyes are old and frankly
I appreciate labels. It's a video game. I wish for things like that all the time. It's a video game.
I assume that my pilot has done the hard work for me and can tell can tell what a rumpler is between a false, but the labeling system in Air Warrior, remember, this was a graphical shell built over a text underbelly. So like what you had is, instead of labels on the planes, you had letters in colors.
I know,
assigned to the borders of the graphic window.
I know.
That would swirl around, and that was like how you could tell what side they were on.
It took me so many it took me so long to click with that. I'm gonna say one of my first notes one of my first notes for this game was, how do you know where anything is in this game? That was like one of my first notes. Like, because I'm trying to fly around an SVGA Air Warrior, and I'm like, where? Huh? Who? Where am I going? Where is anybody? I don't understand. And the map mode helps a little bit, but not that much.
Right. I mean, it was manageable. It was manageable in the multiplayer because it was not as dense. You'd be flying around maybe with you and a wingman most of the time, unless there was squadron events going on or whatever.
Right.
And you would see a dot, and you would type over the general channel dot, location for your team. And then when you got a letter, it would be like con for contact. You would type in con, whatever, and then once you recognized what kind of plane it was, you go from there. So it was a little more manageable because you were doing, for all of the crankiness and grouchiness there is in most DCS multiplayer, or basically every multiplayer sim except for BMS, it was airquake, right? You went up. And if you were a turn fighter, you just went out looking for a fight. If you were a boom and zoomer energy energy fighter, you went out looking for turn fighters. So it was a lot of 1-on-1 and 1-on-2s. So the lettering system was more manageable. Since you only had your opponent and your wingman and whatnot there. So it was funny going into some of the missions where it was just like the Battle of the Quotey Fingers Battle of Britain missions, where it was just like filled with Ju-88s, and there were just like an entire alphabet soup just vomited around the border, right? Swirling around. It's like going, okay. No, yeah. So yeah.
So since you guys did play this multiplayer, especially you, Chase, do you miss it? Because I'm not a multiplayer guy, so I didn't play any of this back in the day, so I really don't have any nostalgia for the multiplayer.
I missed the first blush of act. This is where I got, to just use a term, broke my multiplayer cherry, right? Whereas kids these days, they're doing it in Fortnite or Call of Duty or whatever. This was my big first, so I got into it, and it was just an amazing community. So I kind of miss it, in that way. I don't miss the pull of being pulled back to it when I knew I couldn't afford it. Right. So it was good times and bad times. But, as far as the learning experience, and I did miss that. But there is similar experiences to it still today. And I have no desire to go into them. That time of my life is over.
Do we know what happened to Air Warrior? Because my first E3 was 99. And I remember stopping at, I believe it was called the Game Storm. I think they were called at the time, booth.
Yeah, GameStorm was Kesmai's online service.
Right, and it was still going then, but I don't remember what happened after that. Does anyone know what happened to Air Warrior?
Yeah, I know. I know what happened. I was there. They got EA'd. Electronic Arts purchased them because I think
they probably wanted the multiplayer code. Which was tight.
That was it. And also Mythic, who did Aliens Online, and
didn't
and
Matrix,
some of those RPGs, Dragon Gate, Darkness Falls. Mythic had a whole bunch of games on there as well, and EA ended up buying Mythic. So so GameStorm was $10 a month. As opposed to $10 an hour, and EA wanted them, and so EA bought it, and then they just didn't develop any of the products that Kesmai had created, and everything ended up shutting down by the early 2000s.
Like I said, I mentioned they just parted out the things that were good. I mean, flight sims were dead as disco by the turn of the century, more or less. But you are talking about a company with damn near 15 years of network code. Even if it was dial-up network, you could still use the same prediction code and stuff like that. So, which is probably why they got bought. But I honestly, I totally forgot about Dre when Air Warrior came out. I dropped Warbirds came out. I dropped Air Warrior like a hot rock.
Oh,
Yeah, I only ever dabbled with the online Air Warrior because of the cost.
Yeah.
So I played I played occasionally on the Amiga just because at the time it was a revolutionary thing to be, flying against somebody halfway across the country, and flying against real people. But yeah, when my 90s gameplay definitely shifted over to Warbirds once Warbirds came out. It just had a better, they not only looked better, but it just had a better system for organizing online fights and making for kind of more realistic engagements and stuff. It felt more like flying combat rather than a death match in the skies.
Right. Airquake. Yeah.
So it's kind of amazing that Air Warrior has at least left a legacy, truly, in its wake, but it no longer exists as an entity, even though it's.
And I'll say that.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I'll say that for anyone who listens to these and goes, should I check out these games? The thing that survives, it definitely nothing earlier than Air Warrior 3, and make sure you get 3D card emulation going. But hopefully the Steam version Microprose keeps threatening to release will. They
said by the end of the year. I asked before I left the Microprose Discord server in disgust. I asked, and they said by the end of the year, all those classics they threatened to release will be released.
Well, let's hope. But yeah, so if you do want to go back to it, the part that's interesting is dogfighting the AI.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
It's the mission structures aren't amazing, but doing things like attacking formations of B-17s without getting shot down, like trying to take a P-40 up against an Oscar, things like that, like those experiences.
Yeah, the aircraft selection. Yeah, sorry, the aircraft selection is fascinating. The missions are really pretty fun. I mean, you can drive a tank in it for whatever reason. I mean, you don't do anything with it because the multiplayer doesn't exist, but you can for whatever reason. Yeah. But
we manned AA guns and stuff like that when we were pissed off that our kill to death ratio that day was like 1 to 10. It's like you just couldn't get it. I was like, God damn, I'm gonna go and freaking. So I'm just gonna AA gun.
So Air Warrior, is an important legacy from a multiplayer perspective, and if you're thinking about getting these from a single player's perspective, there's a lot of content here. I could if you're itching for some single player, especially World War II air combat with really solid AI like we've been talking about, I could it depends on how keep an eye on our Discord. Once the Steam version drops, I'm definitely going to buy it, and I can tell you whether it's crap or not. Don't worry, because
I want to back up Brian here. It's like, especially who I am calling out all of you people who think you are shit hot in IL-2. IL-2, the GB series, with its endless turn fights. With its AI's endless turn fights in every single fighter, right? And you will learn. I am saying you go back to the sim, pick one of the planes. You're not going to find all that. Well, actually, it had yaks and stuff.
It did,
so you'll find some Russian trash in there. Go in there, Air Warrior 3. Pick your poison. Say, your typical completely overpowered plane in IL-2, like a Dora, or what, a fuck with Dora, whatever. And another thing is you will also realize that 50 caliber machine guns are effective. That's right. I'm still calling out IL-2, and the IL-2 players are nodding their heads with me because they know that the AI is trash. And the damage modeling for anything but cannons is trash. And you will play a very, very ugly sim over ugly polygons against planes that fly reasonably realistically at a realistic rate and will do things. right? Other than just, turn left.
I would say this is a good learning sim. It's got.
It is. It is. It's so ugly, and it's so obtuse in its UI. But once you get into the meat of it, you'll fly these planes. You will find out, as Denny mentioned earlier, why it is a bad idea to turn fight a 0 in a P40. Right? You will learn patience. You will get the opportunity to, that's like one of the things when I'm flying IL-2 and other things. It's like you don't get the opportunity to do a really good, you can turn and burn, but a really good boom and zoom, because everybody's just immediately enters a spinning fireball, a fur ball. You're never going to see, guys setting up like a thatch weave. And that's that. Going back to them, that is where I learned all this crap. Right? I learned that you can, if you've got a good wing leader, a guy who is in the game a while, and 2 wildcats can just put down a turn and burner. As long as you do the right, you do a thatch weave, and you have somebody calling out, okay, I need you to turn now into them, or to do this and things like that. It was all the independent one-on-one tactics that you pretty much learned from all the sims before then, right? Other than maybe Falcon 3, but yeah, this was the school, and that learning, let me trash talk a lot of people over a lot of news groups for many years. And even got me a few bucks writing reviews, so.
I actually might keep playing it because I think I might become a better pilot out of it. And again, I'm hoping that when they release the version on Steam, they include all this documentation from the versions that we have, because
all the help files
and the manual, because there's a lot of good documentation here that is worth reading, I think. And I think go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I know. You're right. It is worth reading. There's nothing like this in terms of, and I think, and that really does make me think about it more. There's really no place you can learn like that, because if you try War Thunder, no. You're not. You're more worried about number one. You don't get to pick the plane that you want unless you are just grinding it or platinuming it. Spending all that money trying to get the planes. I mean, you can argue about the realism in their full realism mode. I'm not going to, but I don't think that kind of community, the kind of communities and that kind of focus. Like I said, this is the true virtual pilot wannabe sim.
Yeah. I mean, it has at least a dozen training missions right out of the gate.
I mean, you've got the training missions there, but back in the day, again, you don't have that anymore. You had your buddies, and you could just call out somebody, hey, let's do some one-on-ones and some, and he would join C land and you would join B land, and you would meet, you would do a fights on over somewhere. Hopefully you wouldn't get vultured by someone who's like, oh, look, even though you call out, we are training here. And if it was, if it was somebody who was on the chaotic good side of the spectrum, they would be like, okay, yeah, training. And they might even join up, for permission for like a 2v1. If they were on the chaotic evil side, they'd try to vulture you while you were training. But that's the kind of community that honestly I miss. Is you had a bunch of guys who were, who were on a, let's just say, a higher maturity level. Nowadays, there was no, there were no trolls. You didn't have to worry about hacks. No one was hacking the game, because it would be pathetic. You'd be called out by this community of very into it, fighter wannabes. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
It was a more civilized age, right?
Yeah, it's kind of weird. I wish, like, so many games have been brought back in like emulation. Like, people have brought back, God, I don't know, Jumpgate, for example, and all these other, Asheron's Call, and all these other games have been brought back via emulation, and no one's brought back Air Warrior via emulation.
It's a niche. It's a niche within a niche. It's a really retro niche within a niche, and we are also old. Like I said, I was one of the younger pilots at the time.
That's true.
So most of the guys I imagine who I was in the community are in their late 60s and 70s now.
Yeah, so maybe they're playing Warbirds. Yeah, maybe they're playing Warbirds.
Yeah, in their nursing homes or whatever. So
they got their little laptops,
right,
in the home, with their little Logitech sticks,
right.
But yeah, and if you want that kind of experience now, there are better equivalents. And you're never going to get that community back to what it was. No, this was in the days before AOL and Prodigy ruined online.
Pretty much ruined it. It democratized it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was I
don't want to be pigeonholed as that elitist guy, so I'll just be quiet on this topic.
Right. Just to put this in perspective, fellow kids. When I was playing this, I was not on the internet yet. Oh, I was, but it was through a shell called, we'd probably mentioned this before, Eskimo North. So I had to dial into a local server called Eskimo North. They were a big thing in the Seattle area, and that was how you got on the internet. And honestly, there was nothing on the internet that I looked at that time was FidoNet. Do you know FidoNet? Don't you? Yeah. It was think of it as a Usenet, and fellow kids who know that is. It was kind of it was a sideshow, but it would talk to Usenet. We pulled a lot of stuff on FidoNet off of Usenet, so it was a non-real-time message board that you downloaded and uploaded messages to, and that is basically all I used the internet for. I dialed out to everything else. I had an email address through Eskimo North, but I don't think I ever used it, So yeah, it was all dial up.
I think by 96 I was getting into DSL by then. I think.
Jesus, really?
I know.
I didn't get DSL until 99, man.
I was hardcore, man. I was hardcore.
But what were you DSLing to?
Oh God, what were they called?
There was nothing out there.
What were they
called? The web browsers were awful.
No, 96. No, 96 I was still on dial-up because I was using dial-up to try and play X-Wing versus TIE Fighter on dial-up, which was a horrible experience that no one should ever have to emulate. Oh God, that was awful. No, I didn't get DSL to maybe 98. Right.
Yeah.
God.
Denny, you were probably using it more since you actually had a internet adjacent job.
Yeah. I remember getting one of the first cable modems.
Oh, damn. Dip.
Yeah. No, I had that as soon as I could, but no, I think like back in the early internet days, I was still on Earthlink.
Yeah. Earthlink was one of them.
Yeah. Earthlink I was on Earthlink for like a hot second.
It still exists.
What?
I just checked. Yeah.
No, it doesn't.
Their webpage. It is a thing.
What? That's
Earthlink offers local internet services throughout the continental U.S. 48 states.
That's comforting in a way. That's something. There's something comforting about that.
I think they're partnered with other people, but yeah, they're talking about like wireless and fiber and.
Oh wow! I mean, good on them. Yeah. If they're still around. That's good. Well, I guess we should wrap it up. Does anyone have anything else to say about Air Warrior before we wrap up?
It was very much a product of its time. Just the TLDR. It was my first MMO and only MMO addiction. And it was, the community was absolutely amazing. It was the absolute place to go if you were serious about being a flight sim and you were you were a pudgy kid with thick glasses and there was no way you were ever going to be a fighter pilot, for you to learn what lag and lead pursuit was and what lead turns were and offset shooting and energy fighting versus turn and burning, all of that. It was great. Air Warrior 3 is still out there. It's ugly, but yeah, I think it may it will make a blow to the pride of a lot of people out there who think they are good BFMers.
Yeah, I would say once Air Warrior 3 hits Steam, don't bother with 2. Don't even bother with 2.
Yeah.
Because all of the content in 2 is in 3. I don't know why they're doing both 2 and 3. It's silly. Don't buy 2. Once 3 hits Steam, if you want an educational World War II and 1 and Korea, really, flight sim, but mostly 2, I would get it because there's a lot of educational value in this sim, to be perfectly honest, with all the help files and the manual and the really good AI. I'm going to keep playing it because I think I could become a better pilot out of it, honestly.
Reading those help files, especially about the airplanes and going over their strengths and weaknesses and how to use them, it was like that is such a voice speaking back to me. Reading those, just endlessly talking about those things and having it all there. It hit you very much in the it hit me very much in the nostalgic feels going through those. Going through this, would I really want to fly these again? Not really. In terms of that, but yeah, just going through those is like, wow, blast from the past.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to keep dabbling in these. So, friends, next month we are going.
But what about Denny?
Denny.
What about Denny? We can't skip Denny.
I didn't realize I skipped
you.
I'm sorry. Did you have anything? Sorry, did you have anything?
You got to be in the wrap up, man.
No. This is kind of the same thing. It's like this is more of a nostalgia trip to the first online flight simming. Was what was the joy that I got out of this.
But you made it
not a sim I could see going back and playing 450 missions.
But you made an important call earlier about the legacy of this thing. You made a very important call.
No, it was such a, because my it's funny, I think because they got EA'd 25 years ago, I think people have forgotten them except us old people, and literally like online gaming owes so much to them, not just flight sims, but MMOs too.
Yeah, I did not realize
they pioneered all that stuff. Yeah,
I didn't realize that, and that is so important. That is so important to know.
I'd also just like to put a call out for those of people who do listen and have played these. I'm not gonna beg for comments, but I'm begging for comments. If you want to comment on our board about your experience with it, what I would really love to hear from some of you old timers, what squadrons you were in,
or join our Discord.
If you or join our Discord. Yeah. If you're a B-lander, a C-lander, you are the guys who I would really like to hear from if you are out there, and we would really like to hear from you. So yeah, definitely.
Oh, yeah, I'd love to hear those stories. I would love to hear those stories.
Yeah, USC guys can talk about your Amiga kills.
So, friends, next month we're going to do something a little different. We have solicited many questions as we did a call out a couple of times for them. So next month we're going to zag a little bit, and instead of talking about a game or a series of games, we're going to take your questions. We have quite a few. Thank you very much to everyone who submitted questions. We have quite a few, and we're gonna zag a little bit and answer your questions. So again, thank you everyone very much for listening to us jibber jabber about old flight sims. This is so much fun. We love doing this. We love going back and talking about these classics. It is such a great time, and we appreciate every one of you for listening and supporting us. Thank you so much. And don't forget to check your 6. We will see you next time, everyone. Have a great one. Be safe out there. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.